Happy Friday, everybody. Andrew Cady here with the $100 Million Producers. Today, I am joined by Jimmy Hobson. Excuse the appearance here. I am coming to you live from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Not so sunny, not so beautiful. Rainstorm coming through right now. But welcome, Jimmy. How's your day going, buddy?
Good, man. It's early for me. I apologize for my accommodations as well. I'm in the middle of a remodel, so my office is torn up here. But I'm good. No complaints.
Yeah. It's all about the content, not the backgrounds, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So how's business out in the west side of the United States going right now?
It's good. It's good. I mean, it's been a little odd the last couple of weeks for me, just because I do a ton of VA and it's very cyclical. Obviously, we're in PCS season, but all in all, it's not bad. My team is producing quite a bit, and we're just every day trying to get better and produce more. We see that more and more lenders are closing their doors in our area. So that's always, not that it's positive. I won't see people lose their jobs, obviously, but it means we're gaining more market share. So
yeah, and we can't forget that the mortgage industry is just highly overstaffed right now. I mean, you take multiple years. It's one thing if you have a big spike up in volume for 6 months. Yeah. Everybody's going to fall behind. But if you have a spike up like we did, where we crossed 4 trillion in originations for 2 years in a row, we're about 40% overstaffed in the industry, and that's just going to take time to filter out. And you're right. We don't want to see anybody lose their job. There's nothing fun about it, but it's also kind of a necessary piece of bringing the mortgage industry back to a right size.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, real estate, same thing. We're seeing a lot of that on both sides. Everyone wanted to be a mortgage lender or a realtor in 21 because they thought it was easy money. You know what I mean? And
it was. I mean, realistically, in 2020, 2021, as a listing agent, you could have put, you put a sign in the yard, take 2 cell phone photos, drop it in the MLS, and you get 60 offers in 15 minutes. Listing agents had it easy. And, it's just kind of the shift now. Now, listing agents are going to have to work harder, and buyer's agents are going to be a lot easier of a job. They don't have to drive around to 70 open houses to try and get one deal accepted.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny as you say that. I had an agent, one of my friends, post the other day that she saw the most offers she's ever seen on a house 3 days ago, ever. And that was in 21 and 22, which means the market's getting dumb again. And the problem in our market is, and I don't know if you've seen this in your market, but there wasn't a lot of low-priced inventory. Now we're seeing it, but a lot of the low-priced inventory is frankly shit. Like stuff that I would never buy. I wouldn't put my kids in it or anything. But, it's a $350,000, $400,000 piece of junk. I'm like, holy crap, man. So
yeah, it's I've said it for a long time. The moment we see interest rates come down, the market's going to be back on fire, like the housing market. Regardless of what happens, obviously, if you haven't been living under a rock, this week has been an absolute wild ride in equities markets, in bond markets, mortgage interest rates. There were days we should have seen 0.3% betterment in rate, and we saw nothing because all the lenders are sitting here saying, wait, you have this big of a move in a day. How do we sure it's not a knee-jerk reaction? Turns out it was, because the next day we reverse it. And then it's like every morning we open way better, and by the end of the day we're worse. Like the markets right now are pretty wild. But we're definitely seeing hot activity. Inventory's just free falling where we're at because what's available is getting bought up, and a lot of people aren't listing their homes back on the market.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. I see it the same thing. We've got kind of a sweet spot. If you've got something 350 to 400,000 in my market that's even halfway decent, it's gone. But it's slowed on the higher end stuff. But back to your point, I'm looking at the market today, and we're up again this morning. I don't expect it to stay that way, though.
No. And, I guess, for loan officers, loan originators watching this, the thing I would say in times like this is stay on top of your pre-approved buyers. This is that moment where you're going to have to ride that like a rented mule. It's the only way it's going to work. Like the amount of, when I look at my pipeline spread right now, it's mind bending to see hey, in the last 30 days, we've done 17 million in pre-approvals, but we've actually only got 6 million under contract. Mm-hmm. And so if loan officers right now aren't staying on top of their pre-approved buyers, what you got to understand is when people are having a hard time finding property, there is zero loyalty. We know this. We know this in the mortgage industry. Realtors get it as well. So if Johnny Realtor sent you Betty buyer, and Betty's put 6 offers in. She can't find the property. She's going to go find a new realtor. That's just what happens. And if you aren't staying on top of that pre-approved buyer, guess what that new real estate agent's going to do? Hey, I don't know Jimmy. I don't know Andrew. Get pre-approved with my lender. You're going to have a better chance of getting your offer accepted. And if you're not staying on top of pre-approvals right now, you're going to lose out on a lot of business over it.
It's funny you say that. I woke up this morning. I've got a veteran over in Europe somewhere that's PCSing. And they're like, they literally put under contract 6 times, and mainly it's because of them, right? It's not because of anything else. And they messaged me, well, we decided to go with our credit union because rates are better. Because as you know, literally we've seen rates move a whole point in the last 30 days, upward and up and down, right? And I'm like, well, I mean, you're right. The rates are better. I can't literally send you a daily rate update. It's just not possible. But again, fair warning to people that, are chasing every deal. Look at every single deal, reprice everything every day. If you have to, go through your pipeline if it's small enough, and pay attention, because otherwise, it doesn't feel any better for me to lose a $500,000 deal than it does to you that do 1 or 2 a month when I'm doing a lot more. I mean, I don't like it anymore. So
no, it's a horrible feeling. And a lot of it is just a lack of follow-up, but you're dead right. Like, if you gave your client an interest rate quote at pre-approval, which a lot of times we don't, depending on the situation, if they don't ask, I don't give it, specifically for this reason. My former business partner would send out, TCA on every single pre-approval. And he always wondered why he got shopped so hard on it. And I'm like, dude, in this volatile of a market, if the interest rate conversation isn't coming up, I'm not going to talk about it, because if I give them a quote at today's rate and 2 days later, they call the next lender down the street, they may get a 0.5% better. I may be 0.75% better. Rates may have come down, and that lender that's a 0.5% better, I may still be able to beat them by 0.25%. But if the clients aren't asking me for a quote up front, I'm not giving it out right now, just based on how wild the markets are moving.
Yeah, I mean, well, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. I tell people all the time, and you know this, you've known it a long time. It's very simple. I was like, rates are roughly here. However, the market's so volatile. When you find a house, we're going to go through this again, because the reality of it is you're going to see all these shiny objects out there, right? And we're not locked in. And so it's just going to keep moving. And everyone's like, well, can we lock it? I'm like, no. I mean, we can do lock and shop, but why would you do that and pay a bunch extra? I was like, the whole point of our job is to find you the best deal possible. But I just tell them, I was like, once you get closer, once you make an offer, let's talk about rates that day. If you think you're going to get an offer accepted, because it doesn't matter what it was 2 weeks ago. Because 2 weeks ago, like right now, we've got some rate pockets on VA loans where you can get, in the 5s with not a whole lot of cost, and every other lender's high 6s to 7. And I'm just like, well, come on, guys. I mean, it's so fluid. We got to figure it out.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is it's fluid to the minute. Like we ran one of my loan officers and I ran a quote on Friday of last week, and the buyer wasn't under contract yet. We quoted it out. We ran it on Monday. Theoretically, the markets got better, but the one particular lender that we had priced it with, they were 1.5 points higher now. Just same scenario. And so you got to be careful on some of those things when you give out these early quotes on deals. What are you guys doing out on the West Side to combat trigger leads? Because I know that's such a hot topic, and this is primarily an originators chat. So what are you guys doing to combat it? I know what I'm doing.
Obviously, we started doing all soft pulls.
Yes.
Because of what we've negotiated, obviously, with UMortgage, started doing soft pulls on everything. And a lot of us are doing soft pulls and then sending the old opt-out pre-screen to people and say, hey, do this. Because outside of AUS, which is soon coming, obviously, a soft pull gives you every single thing you would need, right? If I've got someone super high DTI or something, I've got to do a hard pull and I warn people. It's weird, though, because in my career, I have not really run into a lot of triggers, which is strange to me. And I don't know if it's because I do a super good job, but I know tons of people that are probably better at this job than me that get crushed by triggers. So I don't know if I'm just lucky. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not having issues with people leaving me because we're arguably some of the best priced out there. But the annoyance of the clients getting, I had one lady that got 76 phone calls in a 24-hour period, 76 phone calls in 24 hours. And so we're doing the same thing. We're soft pulling everyone. And I've been in this business long enough. I've closed enough deals that I know if this deal is going to run DU or not before I run it. And if it's questionable, I'm going to run the hard pull and we're going to make sure the deal works. But if you've got someone with an 800 FICO and 20% down and they got reserves and are 30% DTI, I don't need DU to tell me that it's okay before I send that pre-approval letter.
Exactly.
And so we're sending that, and then we're telling them to do an opt-out pre-screen, telling them to do the do not call list, and then pulling credit when contract comes in, full credit. And it's just a weird market we're in. It's like there's so much, almost back to predatory style lending.
Yeah, dude, it's weird. I think I know some of the lender partners are trying to stop this as well. The problem is the credit bureaus make way too much money on this crap, so they're never going to stop doing it. We just have got to be, and really it comes down to what your whole career has been built on, and mine as well. We just have to be educators. We got to educate our clients. We got to educate our teams. We've got to walk through it and say, this is how we do this. This is why you run into issues. And I think we're going to see, with obviously the way we've combated it as a company, I think we're going to see a lot less of this, just because they've been pushing in education hard. I mean, I'm sure you and Todd have talked about it as well with doing the soft polls, how much of a difference that makes.
It's amazing.
And you've seen enough scenarios, like even a conventional, if you've got a 35 and a 41 ratios, and a 740 credit score, you're fine, right? If you're not, once you get over 45 is when you got to start looking at that, make sure you have reserves and everything. But I think a lot of this just comes down to, what I tell my team every day. I was like, our entire job, those of us have done it a while, we just get better and better because we've had more swings at the plate. It's not that we're better LOs per se. We've had more opportunity to be better LOs.
Yeah, I go back to Babe Ruth analogy on it.
Yeah.
I read this article one time, and it was like one of the more impactful things I ever read. So Babe Ruth, everyone knows him as the king of home runs, like the absolute king. But what people don't know is the same time that he held the home run record, he held a second record for 17 years. He was the strikeout king. And so it wasn't that he was simply that much better. He just had that many more at bats and swung his bat more than anybody else. And it was funny because when he finally lost the strikeout record, the person who took the strikeout record from him was none other than Mickey Mantle. Like the greats of all time, it's not necessarily that their batting average is that much better. They're just taking more swings at the plate and just getting out there and doing it, which kind of takes me to one other thing I was thinking about today. Yesterday, I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana right now. I was with Rene Rodriguez yesterday. He was teaching a bunch of realtors, and he did sales math, and he broke down basically, there's an actual formula that if you have a closing that you make $5,000 on, takes 1.5 contracts on the average to get that closing because of fallout on deals. It takes 2.5 2.5 face-to-face meetings, and then it breaks all the way down to the lead. And then you can calculate your cost per lead. And so I've always looked at this in a similar fashion in the mortgage industry. And the world we're in right now is just, I think it can be so discouraging for loan officers where, we used to be so busy. And I would encourage anyone that's in the business right now, start to break it down to a more granular scale. Like if your average commission is $3,000, if it takes 4 credit pulls, if you have a 25% closing ratio of the people you pull credit for, which is pretty standard for the industry, some are not going to buy, some don't credit qualify, some are going to use a different lender. So 4 credit pulls to 1 closing. The math you need to be thinking in your head is, when I pull a credit report, I just made $750 because the averages don't lie. It doesn't matter if that client has a 480 credit score. And I think the world we're in right now, it can be so discouraging when you finally get that referral and then you run credit and they got the 312 credit score because they have finger hut collections. And you're like, it just kind of takes the wind out of your sails.
Yeah.
Understand that you made $750 for pulling that shit credit report. And just take the psychology out of, I need the contract to make money. No, the averages don't lie. Like every time you get a client to give you the authorization to pull credit, $750 in your pocket if you're averaging $3,000 a deal. And that little mental shift, I think, can take people just out of that trough of getting 4 or 5 bad credit pulls in a row, because averages don't lie.
Well, I agree with you. I even look at it further out than that. Averages don't lie. and every deal today is 5 deals too. So you got to, so even that, so literally, even if you pull 4 credits, you close 1, you still get basically 4 deals, right? Because, everybody that buys today is going to be a refi. If you do your job well and you're in front of them consistently moving forward, you're going to get every one of their family members. You're going to get their kids. You're going to get their second home, their third home, and you get all the refis. I mean, it could be 4 or 5, could be 10 deals. I've had some clients that I've done 3 refis for. I've been in the business really full-time 5 years. So yeah.
When I was up at UWM Success Track, someone pulled a chart up there, and they said from that the average first-time home buyer transaction will result in 12 total purchase or refinance transactions over the life of that consumer through referrals, through refinances, purchases, second homes. On the average, there's 12 transactions tied, 11 additional to every first-time home buyer transaction.
Wow. So you know what that means then? That means that your database is the thing you should be attacking every single day. I mean, obviously 100%. We get deals from realtors. Realtors are our partners, and that's where, but I get as much repeat referral as I do from realtors, right? And so that's the one thing I can preach to people, and you can as well, is look, stay in front of your database. I mean, I have all kinds of follow-up systems, and I frankly don't do enough. You know what I mean?
I don't either.
Yeah, and that's the reality is I do better than 9 out of 10 people, but even that sucks.
Yeah, everybody knows, if you're in the mortgage industry, Kai McBride. He's arguably one of the best mortgage coaches out there. He often says that 20% of your database will purchase or refinance on any given year. And so think about that math. Like me personally, I agreed. I do better than probably 90% of other loan officers in follow-up and staying in front of my database. Yep. But it's still not good enough, because if that number's accurate, 20% is purchasing or refining on any given year. And I've closed 2,000 transactions personally, then somewhere in there should be somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 transactions a year being done on my database. And I'm maybe capturing 50 to 60 of that.
Yeah.
50 to 60 is a lot better than a lot of people are doing, but how important is it to be in front of our database, text campaigns, email campaigns, freaking postcards, whatever it takes. Like when I switched and moved over to UMortgage, I blasted my last 2 years of past closed clients with a I've moved postcard with my updated email address on it. If I get one transaction out of that, just one deal, which I've already gotten 2, that pays for my entire campaign. But it's also top of mind awareness.
No, I agree. It's funny you mentioned Kai. I actually coached with Kai for like a year and a half. And not only that, but circling back to obviously us and his LOs, his big emphasis not only in attacking your own database, but he believes that, you should go out to the listing agent super hard as well, because he said that's where the gold lies. He's like, if you go and crush a deal, which is part of the reason why Arrive is great, because it keeps you updated on all that. He's like, but you should be able to land 20% of those listing agents as partners as well if you do your job correctly. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
And like I actually, we talked about this, I think it was Tuesday or something on the sales huddle. We talked about listing agents, and it's like, I don't grasp why loan officers almost, I would say the majority of loan officers almost treat the listing agent as a third-rate person in a transaction, and they're annoyed by them, and they're like, I go the opposite. Like I treat them as well, if not better, than the buyer's agent on the transaction. You say, well, that's stupid. Well, I've already earned the business of the buyer's agent. We're already working together. But what if every person that was selling cars, what if every single car they sold, they had the opportunity to earn another referral partner from the person that was going to sit in the passenger seat? Like, we have this opportunity on almost every purchase transaction to earn the business of another person. Like, I turn off all email communication to the listing agent. Like, they get 0 emails from me throughout the transaction. It's only phone calls, and it's 6-7 times throughout the transaction. I'm going to call them when they go under contract. I'm going to call them when it's submitted to underwriting to let them know the appraisal's ordered, when it comes out of underwriting, when it submits for clear to close, when the appraisal's back, when they get clear to close, and then 3 days after closing, and then 2 weeks after closing. I'm going to call that listing agent and I'm going to ask for business. I'm going to ask them to rate me on a scale of 1 to 10, because if you have them clear to close in 8 days, 9 days, you're going to get a 9 out of 10 rating on that. And the moment they say, oh yeah, that was a 10 out of 10 transaction, I'm like, awesome. How does next Tuesday at 10 a.m. work to grab coffee?
Yep. Exactly. I mean, it's really, it's funny is, 2022 was a rough year for a lot of people. They come off this massive year in 21 and 22. And, for the longest time, people like, we're getting back to the basics. Well, here we are 15 months into 2022, right? 15 months to 20. And I talked about this last year at AIM Fuse. And I was like, look, none of you have gotten back to the basics. Now the basics maybe look different today than they did 20 years ago. But the basics are still the same thing. Work on your referral partners, work on your database, attack listing agents, post on social, be visible to people, make sure people know that you are the expert. And people are still not doing it, like, well, I'm afraid of doing videos and I have to do 800 takes. No one fucking cares about how you think you look in a video. All they care about is that you're out there doing your best every single day and working at it. And that's the struggle I have, and obviously we got a pretty large team that we're building here. And that's what I preach every single day is, look, I was like, people don't care. Your supporters. Get out there and put the message out there and work on your stuff.
Get out there and be visible. At the beginning of 2022, I saw the writing on the wall of what the year was going to look like very quickly. We had great January, great February, abysmal March. And we were like, okay. And so I went ham on Facebook. Like, some people are Instagram people, some of it's LinkedIn. I do those channels, but I hit Facebook hard. And so I went back and I was looking at my stats. In March of 2022, I was averaging 7,000 impressions a month on my Facebook page. Like 7,000 views in a month is what I was getting on my Facebook page. And for the last 15 months or really 12 months, I've just gone ham with education, putting out market data and just driving it. And a year later, I'm sitting at 268,000 views on my Facebook page in the last 28 days.
Yeah.
And so if you don't think the power's in just getting out there, you're out of your mind. Just get out of the comfort zone, get out there, put viable data out there. In times of fear and unrest, people seek information that's credible. And if you can become that information source and actually back up what you say, don't put a bunch of bullshit out there, actually have the charts, do the due diligence, don't be lazy about it, pull the charts, pull the data, and then deliver it in a very readable manner, you're going to start to get a following very fast, because people are hungry for information right now.
Yeah. No, you do a great job about that. I know you were on one of the sales huddles. I'm sure you've talked about it on here with Todd, about how you have a realtor group where you basically put out the data, the stuff you get from Barry and the things you follow with the Fed and different things like that. And there's a ton of value in that. I mean, it does help that you know what you're talking about. You've been doing this for a while. Yes. But at the same time, I know one of my young prodigies, Tyler in Texas, reached out to you and said, how are you doing this? Because he's hungry to learn. He's willing to take and learn from the people that he's seen grow and do this business well to figure it out. Are we all experts? No. Is Barry an expert? Far more than us. Let's not pretend that he doesn't know way more than we've ever thought.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But if he's going to give me a daily update on what's going on in the markets, why would I not use that opportunity? And he says it on all these daily updates. I'm giving this information so you can put it back out. Yep. If I can just regurgitate what he says with my own flavor on it and my understanding on it, it's not going to be perfect, but it'll be a heck of a lot better than putting nothing out.
Exactly.
And Tyler's killing it, man. Talk about someone that goes after it. Like, this kid, Tyler, reaches out to me from Texas and he's like, hey, can I get a call with you? And I'm like, sure. Yeah. All of a sudden, he's built the same Facebook group I have. He's driving engagement into this thing. And he's actually giving me tips on like, hey, this worked really well. And so I'm like, I haven't thought about that. Let's collaborate. Let's work together. This is a tough market. There's going to be a lot of fallout from the real estate and mortgage side.
Yep.
But those who band together and actually start to figure this thing out, we're going to be the ones that end up on the top of the pile when this whole thing shakes out.
Well, I mean, I think, where I'm lucky, and I'll be honest with you, is where I'm lucky is I went to a Facebook training in January of 2018 in Atlanta with Steve Green's stuff. And I met all those people that you've known them off longer than I have. And because of who I met, the room I got in, it changed my world, because all of a sudden I started doing Facebook training. I started seeing that. So not only are listing agents and your buyer's agents and everything else important, but who you know is important. Having a 30-minute phone call with you to talk about these kind of things there's a ton of value. I tell people all the time, I was like, look, I don't care if you work with me or not. I was like, I am where I'm at because people helped me. So I'm an open book. That's why I do the podcast. I was on one with JP. I did one with Loan Officer Wealth. That's why I get on and kind of talk about what I've done. Is it going to work for everybody? No, because I'm a little neurotic and crazy. But yeah, exactly. But the reality is if someone could take one thing I did and it makes their life better, I've done my job. And that's why, I've started, when I came from a solo originator, basically had, 1.5 assistants just doing my own loans to running a branch of like 60 plus people with my partners. I never realized it, but I thought, man, I've got so much to put out there to people that I can help raise everybody up instead of just myself.
Yeah. And I think we're both kind of in that stage of life. I did the 100 million, me and an assistant, and we did it. My goal this year is to not do any loans. My goal is to step back and take what I've learned, what I know, and help people grow at this point.
Yep.
And you're dead right. I'm never going to drag someone up the ladder with me.
Sure.
But I'm definitely going to look, people help me up the ladder, but I'm definitely looking below to see those that are raising their hand up and saying, hey, could you help me? If someone wants help, I am an open book. Pick the phone up, call me. I will tell you every secret of my success. And I'm never scared to share it. Like, people always ask me, they're like, well, aren't you scared? Like, in Jacksonville, where my market's at, I'll give these presentations, tell everybody exactly how I built my business. And they're like, aren't you scared that, you're telling your competition that? And I'm like, no, because 99% will never implement.
Yep.
And the 1% that do, congratulations, let's work together. Like, there's enough business to go around. No one's going to implement what we tell them. It's sad.
Dude, there's people in my market as we've grown, what we're doing with UMortgage that I've come across that are doing, similar or more volume than I am. And I have no idea who they are. And they literally live 10 miles from me. I'm like, I don't know who you are, but that's refreshing. That just goes to show you that literally there's so much out there that you're missing. I mean, think about what the credit unions are doing, right? Think about all the business that gets to the local banks. There's so many. I mean, I think Scotsman's Guide, I think when I was looking at the numbers, the people that they think there's like $250,000 loan originators. And I don't think that includes all the bank employees. I mean, you think about $250,000 LOs in America. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, a good friend of mine, John Adams with Loan Depot, him and I were both in the Jacksonville market, both crushing $100 million numbers, and multiple years of doing this.
Yeah.
And we never saw each other on paper in business one time in the same market. Like, we were both crushing it, and we never went head to head. There's way too much business out there going to the big rockets, to your credit unions, to Veterans United, I'll say it, and USAA and Navy Fed, that are not being treated right, that we all can just dive in and we can fix that problem really fast without having to worry about, small-minded mentality of, oh, I don't want to share my secrets to Johnny across the street. Let Johnny across the street help you take the business from those that shouldn't have it.
Exactly. Yeah. We're better together. And if you're doing right by the clients, then we're all a collective group, whether we work for the same company or not.
Yep. 100%. I think we're about out of time here, man. Where does 30 minutes go when we just start chatting?
Well, that's kind of the point, isn't it?
It is. So I'll kind of wrap it up and say, happy Friday. Hope you guys go out and crush it. Answer your damn phone, since Todd Bitter's not on here. I've got to say that. And follow up with your database. Follow up with your pre-approvals. Don't get complacent. Don't get lazy. This is the market right now where laziness is going to be the end of your career, because we're going to shed about 40% of what's going on. And if you're at all got a lazy bone in your body, you're not going to stand a chance, because guys like us are going to come in and clean up. So get out there, follow your database. Don't be lazy, and work hard at it. You got any parting thoughts?
No, I mean, really, it's as simple as that. I think the big thing is answer your damn phone. And frankly, share your wisdom. I mean, that's Todd's mantra. It's always been my mantra, is answering the phone as well. But make sure you're sharing valuable information to your clients, to your realtors. I mean, I post a lot of funny stuff just because who I am. But at the end of the day, just be valuable. Bring value every single day to every interaction. And I think that's where you win.
I could not agree more. Well, appreciate you guys' time with us today. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you guys next Friday.
See you guys.
See ya.